In ancient Mesopotamia, power came from trade, invention, religion, and apparently a very healthy supply of papyrus and blue rocks. I'm Mike with Expedition Gaming, and this is Papyria.
Welcome to Mesopotamia, on the fertile shores of the Tigris and Euphrates River. In this game, we're going to be sending out our wanderers and our ships to travel all around these rivers, collecting up the various goods that you see out here and adding them into our civilizations. So, over the course of the game, our budding little civilizations here will grow and expand using all of the various elements that are on the main board, and virtually every one of those elements have a way of scoring us points. How much of them we have collected or how well we have built out aspects of our civilization, all of those will qualify you for scoring points, which scoring points is something you will do throughout the entire game. Now the game will last until 12 of these various goods stacks out here are depleted. Doesn't matter what the good is, if there's a stack out there, once it gets depleted, one of these end of game tiles will come out and take its place. And once that stack runs out, that will trigger the end of the game. So we're going to be going back and forth, moving one of our ships or our wanderers around the rivers and collecting the goods or taking the actions of the space that we land on until we have depleted enough of it to trigger the end of the game. And again, you will score points in this game based on how well you construct this out, and almost every aspect of that can score you points. We'll see the details of point scoring as we move along and you see the way that these civilizations get built up. So with that, let's just jump right into gameplay. I'll teach you how to play as we go along and you'll see how the game flows. Now we are all set up for a two-player game. We are the yellow player here. We'll be the start player. We're up against Yeti, who is the green player here. And like I said, when you take a turn, you will take your wanderer or ship, move it to a new location, and take the actions of that spot there. At the start of the game, all of those elements are off of the board. So your first few turns, instead of moving something, you'll place it out into a spot and then do the actions of that spot there. So for our first turn, let's send out a ship. Now you'll notice there are two different tracks. One of them flows inside the river here on the inside of the board. The other is on the outside of the board. And the outside track is where we would place our wanderers and they would travel along that path. But with our ship, we will place that right here on the river. Now, each one of these sections, which is marked by these yellow lines here, you'll notice there are two stacks here and one stack there. Whenever you come into a location, you're always going to take two things out of that location. If you send your wanderer, then you're going to take one off of each of these stacks right here and add it into your civilization. The outer elements build up your civilization. The inner element is a multiplier, and it will increase scoring for different types of things. So like this token here will increase scoring for the amount of forests that we have in our civilization. So when you send a ship out to a location, you will take the top multiplier token, and then you'll choose one of the outside elements to grab. And we're going to go with this one. Now, both of these elements will get added in. Multiplier tokens always just get added right over to this board right here. So now we have two multipliers for all of the forests in our civilization. And if we were to gain more of these, they just keep stacking on up. This creates a multiplier, which will help score us points for the forests that are in our civilization. We'll see that in a little bit. But that's all there is to that. You just add that right over there. Now, when you add in a landscape tile, this needs to go adjacent to wherever your priest is. Now, this priest is on this tile. So this tile needs to go orthogonally adjacent to wherever he is. You can orient this tile any old way that you want. It does not, like it's got a river, doesn't even need to attach to it if you don't want. That would be kind of silly, but that's possible. We're going to stick it right like that. So it is adjacent to the priest. Then the next step is you move the priest onto that tile. So now when we want to expand our civilization, we can put a tile here or here. And that's it for a turn. You move a piece to a new location, and then you're going to pull back 2 elements from that spot. If you're working with a ship, it's going to be a multiplier token and 1 of these elements here. If it's a wanderer, then it's going to be 1 off of each stack. And then once you're done, you'll reveal the top token from each stack. Over to Yeti. He's going to send out one of his wanderers. He's going to place that right here. Being on the outside, he'll take 1 from each of these stacks. He's going to start with this landscape tile, and he's going to add it in right there, which of course will move his priest over to that spot. And then he's going to build a city. Now when you build a city, it's going to cost lapis to construct, and it must go on one of these forest spaces. So he can choose whichever one he wants. There are reasons on the way you want to build these out, because cities will score, you'll score more points for your cities if you have a lot of space in between. You want your cities to be spread out. So he's going to choose that forest space there, and he's going to pay his lapis to construct it. Your first city costs 1 lapis, your second city costs 2, the third is 3, and so on. So this will cost him 1 lapis, which is now back to us. I think we're going to send out our second ship. And for this one, let's send it right over to here. And we're going to do a very similar thing to our first move. We're going to grab this multiplier token and this landscape token. And this multiplier will go in right there. And then the landscape token, oh, I guess we can go like that. We might need to move things around as we begin building up, but that will move the priest over to here. Now, to point out a couple of things that we're looking at within our budding civilization here. Obviously, these are forests or woods, I suppose. These little icons are mountains. These little statue-looking things are called sanctuaries. And as you've seen, like when Yeti built the city, these are locations where things can be constructed. In fact, this is a mine, so this will produce us some lapis. Mines get constructed on top of mountains. So these are potential future homes for certain constructions, but they're also elements that can score us points right now. So if we were to trigger the scoring of all of our wood elements across our civilization, then these icons will come into play. And as you can see, there's ways to score mountains. This would be scoring your rivers or your sanctuaries, your temples and your cities. And then these little banners, these are referred to as inventions. You'll see inventions across several of these tiles. These inventions here will help us produce papyrus, and we're going to need a bunch of that. This invention here actually helps increase our movement. And obviously we haven't seen movement yet because we're in the initial placement phase, but we'll see that here soon enough. Now, as far as the 3 tiles that we started with, those were decided on during setup as part of a bit of a draft. So each player's handed a handful of these tiles, you choose one to add in, you pass the rest to your neighbor, and then you receive other tiles from your other neighbors, and you do that until you have a total of 3 of these tiles to start out with. And that becomes your starting setup. Now, the number of tiles is dependent on player count. So in a 2-player game, you'll end up with 3 tiles like that. In higher player counts, you would end up with more tiles to begin with. And that includes each one of these stacks. Every stack of elements out on the board The number in those stacks is decided based on your player count. So at higher player counts, there's more out here to choose from, which obviously factors into how quickly you'll trigger that end game. And speaking of stacks, we forgot to refresh that stack. And for Yeti's second placement, he's going to go with a ship, and he's going to place it right there, which of course will gain him this multiplier token. And then between these two, he's going to choose this this landscape tile here. He will add the landscape in right there. And then that multiplier will go in right there, which is going to make scoring for his cities a little bit better for him. And I think I'm going to place our first worker out right here. I like the look of both of these things. So we'll grab this landscape and this scoring tile. We'll add the landscape in just like this. Now the scoring tiles, this is how we trigger scoring. This one's going to let us score for all the woods that are in our civilization here. But the first thing we do is this little icon here says that we're going to gain 3 knowledge. And that's this marker right here. So we start the game with 5 knowledge, and we'll gain 3 to take us up to 8. Now this knowledge is sort of like a cap or a limiter to the number of points that we can score. So say for example, the woods that we're scoring right now. We have a total of 5 woods across our civilization. So it's going to be 5 times 2. Our multiplier over here is 2. So this score would give us 10 points, but we are limited to only receiving 8 out of those 10 points. So one of the things you're always looking to do is increase your knowledge so that you can score the max number of points each one of these opportunities will bring your way. So again, out of those 10 points, we will only score 8. And then once this is scored, it just kind of gets set off to the side for now. And already, this is 1 tile away from that stack being depleted. Yeti is going to send out his ship to right there. Bring both of these back. And he's going to place that just like that, which will move his priest over to there. And then this multiplier token will allow you to score all the tiles that have rivers. And for our last placement, we'll put him out right here. We're not strictly trying to be exactly opposite of our other placement, but this worked out nice. I like the idea of grabbing both a mountain as well as constructing a city. Now, I'm sorry, not a mountain, a mine. When you grab a mine and place it out, there's no cost to build it. It just needs to cover up a pre-existing mountain. So I will place it right there. The trade-off there is that when you're scoring your mountains, you're now 1 mountain less. But when you go to produce lapis, that's what that space is there. Each of your mines is going to produce lapis. So by adding that in, we're increasing our lapis production at the cost of point scoring for mountains. And that's all right, because we are about to spend 1 lapis in order to build this city. And we'll just stick that right there. Yeti's last free placement, we'll take him right over to here. And in fact, he's going to activate that space, as well as grab this score token, score tile. So again, each one of your mines will produce lapis. In addition, he has an invention right here that will also produce him lapis. So he'll get a total of 2 lapis. And then he'll score that. First thing he'll do is gain 2 knowledge. And then he's going to score his sanctuaries. So he's got a total of 5 sanctuaries. And we start with a multiplier of 2. Each of those icons is a multiplier. So he's going to get a total of 10 points for that, limited to 7. So he'll earn 7 points there. Coming back to us, all of our pieces are now out on the board. So from here on out, whenever we take a turn, we will choose any one of our 4 pieces and advance it forward and then take the action of the space that we land in. And when you advance forward, by default, you can move your piece 1 or 2 spaces. And that's where this invention comes in for us. This gives us 1 extra point of movement specifically tied to our wanderers. So each of our wanderers could jump forward by a total of 3 if we wanted. Now, spaces that are occupied by other players, you ignore those as if they don't exist. So we technically could make it here with our default 1-2 movement. Likewise, if you would like to take the space of an opponent, you can pay that opponent 1 lapis to displace them. So if we did want to come here, we could bump them out by paying them. We could give Yeti a lapis, take his place, and then he would advance forward to the next available space. But as it is, I think for our first actual movement turn, let's go right here. That'll give us access to both of these. So we'll take this landscape tile, and this is the tile that will produce us papyrus from our civilization. So we can add this in. This, of course, will give us a tree, or a woods rather, and then an invention that will, just like Yeti, will be able to produce lapis off of that. Now, this tile here that lets us produce papyrus, we'll look out to each of the inventions that produce papyrus, and we'll gain 1 for each. So we're seeing a total of 3 scrolls, which will give us a total of 3 papyruses. For Yeti's turn, he's going to move this wanderer 2 spaces over to here. With that movement, he has crossed this stand right here. It's called a stand because normally there's another piece that keeps it propped up, but that's kind of hard to see on camera, so we have it laying flat. But when you cross this stand, you can spend papyrus to gain some knowledge. Unfortunately, Yeti ain't got no papyrus, so he's going to miss out on this. Because an important timing distinction, you take care of this before you get to do anything up here. So in our randomized layout, it just so happens that there is a way to get papyrus right after spending it. And by the way, each of these spaces here are tiles that are kind of hard to pop out, but each one of these locations are tiles that are randomized during setup. So he's over here. He is going to make some papyrus so that he does not miss out on the next opportunity to spend it. So he will produce 2 papyrus, or papyri, I suppose. And then he'll take this landscape. He'll add that in right there. And actually, with that revealed, I think for our turn, we're going to move our ship right over there. And of course, by crossing that, we can activate it. Let's do that. Let's spend at least 1 papyrus, and that will gain us 4 knowledge. And then we can, I want to grab this one here because then we can make papyrus, but it also gives us an invention. And lo and behold, there is a multiplier for inventions. So let's put that right there. That way we can keep connecting our river. And I am running out of space here. So we'll do that. And then that will add in right there. And hopefully we'll get a chance to score our inventions here in a little bit, because we're starting to get a nice little number of them there. In fact, with the 5 that we currently have, we only need 3 more, and then we would earn ourselves one of these key tiles up here. Now, these key tiles are strictly for end game scoring, and you earn them by meeting the criteria that's found on each one of them. Like this one. As soon as we can get 8 inventions into our civilization, we get to claim this key tile and add it over to here. Now again, this won't do anything during the game. It's just for end game scoring. But these are important because at the very end of the game, we're going to get to score each of these categories one more time, but only if you have a key tile associated with that category. So if we ended the game right now, we would only be scoring our inventions, and the rest of this would go to waste. But let's say we had maybe a couple of these. If this was the end of the game, then we would get to score our inventions, our temples, and our cities. Now there's also a little bit of a race, because the first player to earn one of these key tiles, you'll see that it adds a couple of multipliers into the column. The other key tile, it will let you score that category, but it does not add any multipliers to it. So the sooner you can do it, the more profitable it will be for you by the end of the game. Yeti is up next, and he is going to advance 1 space forward to grab this landscape and this multiplier. Place that right in there. And for us, we're going to work in this same region here. We're going to come right over to there to grab a river multiplier. You know what, we'll just flip these since we're right there. Now this will gain us 4 more knowledge, and then we can score all of our inventions. And again, we have 5 inventions. Our multiplier is 2, so we will get a total of 10 points, and we are no longer capped by that 10 points, so we'll be able to get all 10 of those. Over to Yeti, and he's going to chug along and move this ship 2 spaces, of course, skipping that spot right there. Now he did cross the B stand, so he could spend 2 papyri to claim one of these score tiles over here. These guys have been just chilling on the edge of the board over there this whole time, and whenever you cross that, you can choose one of these and score the criteria. So he's going to go with this one. Of course, that will cost him those 2 papyri. And then he will gain 2 knowledge and score all of his sanctuaries. He has 6 sanctuaries times 2, so he could score 12 points from that, but he will be capped to 9 points. And with that done, he'll take care of his location here. This is his second city, so it's going to cost him 2 lapis for the construction. And again, these go down onto any wood space. So he's going to put it right there. Because again, you want your cities as spread out as possible. Back over to us, and I'm a little worried about the city situation, because Yeti's got 2 of them, And there's only 3 of them left out on the board. There's just enough for us each to have 3 in our civilizations. But if Yeti grabs 2 more of them, then we will only be able to have a max of 2, which means we will not be able to grab the key tile, which wants us to have 3. So I don't want to get shut out from that. He's winning the race right now to get the better version of the key tile, but at the very least, I don't want to not be able to grab one of those for ourselves. So with that in mind, we're going to need more lapis. I'm thinking, let's go right here. We'll produce from our mines, and then we'll grab this, which will help us score those cities that we are hoping to get. And we've got 2 mines and 1 invention, so that'll get us a total of 3 lapis. Yeti will advance forward 1 space here. He'll claim 1 of the mines, and then he will produce from all of his mines. Place that right there. And that's going to get him 1, 2, 3 lapis of his own. We might as well keep this guy chugging along, because now we can build one of these cities. Grab this scoring token here. Or a multiplier token, not scoring. Now, on one hand, this is nice. We've got a little bit of everything. I hope we're not spreading ourselves too thin, but at least every category, except for mountains at this point, we'll be able to score decently on, or at least better than base. So for this guy here, second city, it'll cost us 2 lapis, and we'll pop that down right there. I'm just realizing that I should have revealed that guy right there. For Yeti's turn, he's going to move forward 2 spaces, and he's claiming this. He will build the first temple of the game. Temples are just like cities. The first one costs 1 lapis, the second one will cost 2, and so forth. Now, temples are built on top of sanctuary sites, and very similar to cities, you actually want them to be as spread out as possible. So he's going to place it right on that sanctuary, right there. And you know what? I think I'm going to get while the getting's good. That space is opened up for free, so we are going to pop into there so that we can get ourselves some more papyri. And of course, that token right there. Now, something else has happened. We have both of the pieces in this zone belong to us. Now, something we have not talked about, we've seen it a time or two, is what happens when pieces from opposing players are located in the same region. When that happens, whoever has moved into that region can pay the opposing player 1 lapis in order to receive 1 papyrus. In this case, when it's both of our pieces in the same location, the bonus for this is that we can move our priest to any other space in our civilization. So it's kind of a nice way if we decided we wanted to start adding on to another area, you can just warp them to a different location. Unfortunately, I actually want to keep him right here because I'd like to put another river there to connect that. So we're not going to take advantage of it this time, but it's good to know if you ever need to warp them, this is the way that you do it. So, producing papyrus, and again, we will gain 3 of those. And we'll add that in right there. Now, one other little bit regarding movement. We're about to see it right now. Yeti really wants that spot. So he can enter this space, but he needs to pay us 1 lapis, and that will boot us forward. So that's the toll, and of course, when we advanced forward nothing happens to us here. We just simply get relocated. But now that he's here, he'll grab this scoring token, and he will produce papyrus. So he will gain 2 papyrus, and he will add that in right there. And now we have our first space that has been depleted. So instead of revealing the token off the top of the stack, we'll take the first tile from there and add that in. Now, on a future turn, if someone lands here, they can choose to interact with this. The left side will always gain you knowledge, and then the right side is a way that you can spend resources to gain more points. So by claiming this, you would gain 4 knowledge. You would need to spend 3 lapis to gain 9 points. It's important to note that you can grab this and just gain the knowledge without paying the cost if you would like. But that's what those tiles look like. You know what? Looking out over here, I'm just realizing Yeti has already accomplished this. He should have received it the moment that he did. Because this wants to see 5 sanctuaries, and he has 5 even after he built that temple right there. So he has claimed that. And again, this will not have any effect during the game. Even when he activates any scoring for these during the game, these multipliers do not apply. But he's locked in for good endgame scoring there. I think with that in mind, let's push forward 2 spaces. And we are going to grab this landscape, and we'll also construct our first temple. And once again, I'm going to have to move our world. Go like that. And we will add this in right here, which will move our priest. And then we'll construct this. It's our first one. It will cost 1 lapis. And we'll place that right there. Now we're going backwards on our sanctuaries, but we did just gain 1, so hopefully that helps offset that. But we also just gained another invention. So we're sitting on 6. We need 2 more for that tile out there. Yeti has a tough choice. He really would like to get his 3rd city built, but he doesn't have enough lapis for it, so he's needing to make some of that, which can only happen here, here, or here. Now he could spend 1 lapis to push us out and force us up to this space here. Now, interestingly, we would be forced across this line, which means we would not be able to pay and gain knowledge. So it would, and we're sitting on a bit of papyrus here, so it would cause us to lose out on that benefit. But it would also give us 1 lapis for the push out, which then we would be sitting on all the lapis we need to build our 3rd city. So that's a bad move for him. Instead, he's going to spend a lapis a different way. He's going to go 1, 2, and then he's going to spend 1 lapis to advance an additional space. You can move past your normal allotted movement by spending 1 lapis per additional movement. So that's going to cost him 1 lapis. And of course, he did cross that threshold. So he's actually going to spend both of his papyrus to gain 7 knowledge. So it's going to cost him this and this. But then he will tie up with us on the knowledge track there. And then he's going to produce and gain this multiplier. And he will gain 3 lapis. And of course, with our situation, we don't have enough to build that 3rd city. So there's no way that we're going to beat Yeti to getting all 3 of our cities built first. So I think instead, what we should do is we're going to move forward 1 space. And now that both of our pieces are in this same region, we're going to get to move our priest anywhere. And I actually think we just want to go right there. And the reason why is because when we bring this tile in, we want to place it right here to be able to keep our river connected, which of course will move our priest up to there. And now we are one river tile away from gaining one of those key tiles up there, because we need to have 9 interconnected river spaces. And of course we will gain that multiplier. So now we've got one of everything. But we've emptied out 2 of these stacks, so we will see 2 more tiles come out now. Back to Yeti, and he is definitely striking while the iron is hot. He's going to move right over to there to grab this city and this landscape. He will add that in right there. He will build that city there, which will cost him the 3 lapis. And with those 3 cities built, he will claim that key tile. And we have another supply run out, so we'll fill that in with that tile there. Kind of an interesting invention. This one says that when you take a landscape tile, you can pick up the face-up tile and look at the next face-down one and choose between the ones that you're looking at and then put it back in any order. This would probably be a little bit more helpful earlier in the game. We're probably over halfway through looking at these guys here, but it's always helpful whenever you get it. And that effect does stack. So if you have multiples of that in your civilization, then you can look at multiple tiles in the stack. Well, you know, I think we'll go ahead and move this guy to right here. That'll cross that barrier, and let's go nuts. Let's spend 3 papyri, and that'll gain us 9. So pretty good jump there. But I wanted to come here because I want this tile because it's got yet one more invention and a way to make more lapis, which is always a good thing. And then of course we'll produce some papyrus. And we'll stick that right there. And then we will get 2, 3, 4, 5 papyrus. And with that emptied, that actually looks like a pretty good use for some of that papyrus. But with that addition, we now have 7 inventions. All we need is 1 more, and we can finally claim a tile of our own. And of course, we're 1 river tile away from that as well. So things we're keeping our eye on. And for Yeti's turn, he's going to move this wanderer 1 space to right there, and he will grab both of these. He'll add that tile in right there. And now we're going to see city scoring. For city scoring, you count the lowest number of tiles between all of your cities and all of your cities themselves. So in this case, we have 1 tile between these 2 cities, 1 tile between these 2 cities. So you go 1, 2, 3 cities and 1, 2 tiles. So that's 5 for this. And then his multiplier is 3. So he'll get a total of 15 points. And of course, he can take all of those because his threshold is now at 16. As we come back to our turn, Yeti had a tough decision earlier, and now I think we have a tough decision. I'm thinking that we're going to move over to here. This is going to cost us a lapis, and we'll push him to the next available space right there. Now, what's tough about that is we have 1 lapis left, which means we can't pay for that. Now we could still take the knowledge and just discard this, but for 2 knowledge, that's not that big of a gain. I'd rather leave it out there and try to score some points off of it. So we're going to miss out on that benefit. So the only thing we're really getting out of this turn is this tile right here. Because even though we have arrived in the same location, I'm not even worried about that benefit. Let's just grab this tile here. Now, the reason why is because when we add this in, this is going to complete 2 things for us. We now have a total of 9 river tiles and a total of 8 inventions. So by placing this one tile, we've now qualified for 2 of the key tiles. And Yeti only needs 1 more river tile to qualify for his. So I really didn't want him to snipe out another key tile from us. So while that, I don't know if that was the right move or not, but it definitely gave us 2 of the better tiles. And that's got to be worth something, right? And now this is number 6 out of 12 for these tiles to come out. So we are halfway through bringing out these endgame scoring tiles. But moving on to Yeti, he's going to advance his boat to right there. He'll grab this multiplier, and he will produce some lapis. He will gain 3 lapis again. I think for us, for our next move, this is too good to pass up. It's a nice little setup. We're just going to advance across right here, and let's spend 3 papyri to gain 9 more knowledge. And now that we're here, we can spend the remaining 4 papyri. Oh, wait, you know what? That's a bad idea, because if we activate this, that means we are not activating that. And we only have 4 papyri left. So by grabbing this tile, we're cleaning ourselves out. And what I'm really worried about is on the other side here, we want to cross this threshold and be able to do one of these scorings, but we're going to need papyrus on hand for that. So if we empty the bank out on this, that means we can't replenish with that. And Yeti doesn't have any papyrus, so he's not really in a good position to take this out from underneath us. Okay, I think what we'll do instead is we'll just move forward 1 extra space. Instead of activating over here, we'll activate over here. So we'll grab this multiplier, and we will produce some lapis, which we desperately need. And we will produce 1, 2, 3, 4 lapis. And for Yeti, his papyrus production is in kind of a sad state. So he's going to do something about that. He'll move up to here, grab this landscape and this multiplier. He's going to add that in just like that. That will go there. And of course, that becomes his 9th interconnected river tile, which will get him this key tile here. And even though there are no multipliers on it, he'll now at least be able to score that at the end of the game. I think for our move, we're going to go ahead and swing our Wanderer around the bend here, and we will spend 2 papyri to activate that stand. And I think we're going to take this scoring tile right here. That'll gain us 3 knowledge. And we have a total of 5 woods with a multiplier of 3, so that'll get us 15 points. And now we will take this landscape and we're going to build our second temple. We'll add that in right there. And being the second temple, it'll cost 2 lapis. Temples go down in sanctuaries. We are going to build this here because temples score just like cities. You're going to count the lowest number of landscapes between these two, and then, of course, these two will factor into the scoring. So we want these as spread out as possible. For Yeti's next turn, he's going to do a little leapfrogging. He's going to go 1, and then his second movement will bring him over to here. He has no papyrus, so he will forego that stand's benefit, but he will take a mine and this scoring tile. The mine will go down on his last mountain, and this scoring tile will gain him 2 knowledge. And then he's going to score all of his sanctuaries. It's going to take a bit of a hit on this one. He has 7 sanctuaries, and his multiplier is 5. He would get 35 points for this, except for the fact that he's only going to receive 18 of them. Now, he's kind of held off on scoring these a few times because this is so low, but there are still other tiles out there that will score this criteria, and he figures he better start scoring it while he can before the time runs out. So he will get 18 points for this. Now back to us. We're going to do a little leapfrogging ourselves. We're going to go 1, 2, and then using our inventions ability that gives us that extra bit of wanderer movement, we're going to go ahead and move 3. So we can produce some more lapis, and then we are going to score our river tiles. So that'll gain us 4 more lapis. And now for the river tiles, we'll gain 2 knowledge. And with that latest addition here, we now actually have 10 river tiles and a multiplier of 3. So we're going to get 30 points for that. So to score this, the track only goes up to 50. And once you reach 50, that's what these little tokens are here for. You grab one of these, and that represents you've now racked up 50 points. And then, of course, we carry over and continue scoring. So that is our 30 points there. Yeti's going to carry on this path here. He's trying to make up for his papyrus shortfall. So he's going to produce there, and he will grab that landscape tile. So he will produce 3 papyrus. We are running out of room here. We'll try this. Can we see that? Yeah, just barely. Will. Oof. Okay. I think we're set there. So he will move over to there. All right. I think we should keep pressing our movement advantage. We're going to move this wanderer 1. We'll skip that to 2, and then we'll take our third bit of movement over to here. Crossing the B stand, we will spend 2 more papyrus. We're going to grab this scoring token here. That'll gain us 1 knowledge. And then we're going to score our temples. Again, we have 2 temples, so that is 2. And then the shortest path between them would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 plus the 2, we have 8 times 3. So we'll score 24 points for this. So that will take us up to right there. then we will grab this landscape. And we're going to build another temple. The landscape, it's got to go either here. Oh boy, you can't hardly see that. Well, we'll put it there. We're running out of room. We're going to stick it right there, and we'll move him over to there. Now for the temple, before we build this, one thing I'm noticing is that when we added this tile in right here, that gave us a total of 5 sanctuaries. And so that would have qualified us for this. We should have taken it in that moment, and I overlooked it because I was excited about the temple, but this should come our way. Despite the fact that we immediately covered it up with our temple, that's okay. We had qualified for it enough to earn it. But now this one here will be our third temple, which is going to cost us 3 of our lapis. And we can place this just about anywhere. So we'll place it right there. And now that we have built our third temple, we will certainly grab this key tile. Oop, I stuck that in the wrong spot. There we go. Back over to Yeti, and he's going to leapfrog us to come over here to build this temple, and he's going to score this tile. So he will gain 8 knowledge. And then for a single papyrus, he's going to score 5 points. So that will take him to the threshold, over to there, and he'll gain 1 of these. And now he'll build this. It's his second one, so it will cost him 2 lapis. He's going to place it right there. As I look out over here, this is too good of an opportunity to pass up. We're going to jump across over here. We're going to have to ignore that stand because we currently have no papyrus. So when we come over here, we're going to activate this one first to generate papyrus, which of course will give us 5. But we're going to immediately spend 4 of those papyrus for that monster 22 points right there. Which, of course, right here, we're going to loop again. We'll gain another 1 of these tokens. Now there are only 2 more of these tiles to come out. Actually, I'm just realizing that's empty. There's only 1 more of those tiles to come out. For Yeti's turn, he's going to go 1, and then skipping that over here for 2. He will build a mine. Oh, you know what? Sorry. Prior to that, he has crossed this stand, so he is going to spend his 2 papyrus here. And he's going to grab this score token, which will gain him 2 knowledge. And he'll score his sanctuaries. With his 7 sanctuaries times his 5 multiplier, again, that's 35 points. He's going to lose some of it, but not nearly as much as he did last time. So this will get him 28 points. And now he will build a mine and score this river tile. So this will gain him 2 more knowledge, and then he'll score his river tiles. He has a total of 9 tiles with a 3 multiplier, so he'll gain 27 points for that. So from his 31, he will lap again and just about catch up. And now, of course, this last tile will come out. So now we will continue play until we need to replenish something and we can't because the pile is exhausted. At that point, we will complete the round so that everyone has the same number of turns, and then the game will end, and then we'll do final scoring. Oh, I am just now realizing that the end of the game is already upon us. I missed refilling this space earlier. So technically the tile that came out here wasn't available because something should have already come out there. So this last depletion over here means that it cannot be refilled, which means that does actually trigger the end of the game. So I apologize about that. Wanted to be able to see that coming a little bit earlier so that we kind of had our eye on it and you could see it unfold as it happens. So I apologize for that, but I did catch it, so we didn't actually go a little too far and rake in more points than we should have. But anyway, that does trigger the end of the game. Yeti pulled elements off of here. There's nothing left in the stack over there to replenish. So the game ends with the turn of the player who was last in turn order. In this case, it is Yeti. He is the one that triggered it, and so the game will end immediately at this point. And now we'll move into final scoring. So there are two categories of final scoring. We've talked quite a bit about the key tiles, and that's the first category that we're going to be looking at. So again, we will get to score each of these categories, but not our cities. So for our inventions, we have a total of 8 inventions with a multiplier of 4, because now these multipliers do kick in. So with that, we will gain 32 points. Next up, we will score our rivers. Now for this, we have a total of 10, because again, they do need to be connected. So this guy right here floating off by himself, that won't count towards our scoring. So we have 10 times 5, so we will gain 50 points for this. Now, unfortunately, we do cap out at 40, so we will only be able to collect 40 of those points. That's all right, that's still a lot. Next up, we will score our sanctuaries. We have no additional multipliers for that. We have 3 sanctuaries showing times 3 for a total of 9 points. Our last key tile will be our temples. We have 3 temples and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tiles separating them. So that is 8 times 3, so we'll get 24 points for that. That's it for our key tiles. Yeti will score his rivers, and once again that is 9 times his 3 for not having any extra multipliers, so he'll gain 27 points for that. Then he'll score his sanctuaries, and like before, he would earn 35 points, but he is capped out at 30 there. And his last key tile will be his cities. He has 3 cities and 2 tiles separating them. So he'll have a total of 5 times 3 for 15 points. And with that, our key tiles are done. The next element of final scoring deals with 4 different majorities. Whoever has the most cities, the most temples, the largest river network, and the most collected scoring tiles. So for the first one, Yeti has the most cities with 3. and whoever has the most cities gets to perform another wood scoring. So in this case, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 woods, multiplier of 1, so he will gain 6 points for that. Then the player with the most temples also gets to do another wood scoring. And of course, that is us. We have 3 temples. We actually have a total of 8 woods with a multiplier of 3, so we'll get 24 points for that. The next majority is whoever has the largest river network, and that, once again, that is us. We have a network of 10. Yeti's is only a network of 9. So for this one, we will perform another mountain scoring, which our 2 mountains times our multiplier of 2 for a whopping 4 points. And the last majority is the player who has collected the most scoring tiles. And in this case, Yeti has a total of 6. We have a total of 5. And that means Yeti would get to do another mountain scoring. The only problem is he doesn't have any mountains left, so he actually won't score anything for that. But that is it for final scoring. After those majorities, wherever you're at on the score track is your final score. So taking into account our 50-point tokens, we ended up with a total of 242 points. Yeti ended up with a total of 186 points. So there you have it. That is a full 2-player game of Papyria. This is a game of kind of snappy turns and definitely working up towards big payouts. I think it's interesting how you're constantly trying to balance climbing up on this knowledge track, because as we saw a couple times with Yeti, he missed out on a couple of significant scores because he wasn't able to take all of the points that were coming his way. Now, he did not have very good papyrus production, and I think that held him back. We certainly were able to jump forward a couple times using that stand, so just something to keep in mind. But it's also interesting the way that these tracks are and the amount of pieces you have out on the board. If you manage that right, you have access to just about everything that's out here. But there are times where it kind of gets clustered up and it's sort of tactical in that moment, trying to figure out what you can capitalize on. And of course, looking at these score tiles that are out there, figuring out when to strike and when the right moment for that is. But lots of interesting decisions, but yet the game moves along at a nice and kind of snappy pace. And of course, as with so many games, different player counts are going to give you a little bit different interaction out on this board, whether you're bumping people around, and that might change the lapis market, lapis shifting hands and who has it and who doesn't. And then, of course, that could spin into spending some of that lapis toward another player to be able to gain some papyrus. And we see how valuable that can be. So interesting player dynamics no matter what player count you're at. And again, just snappy turns that can lead up to some pretty big point payoffs. But I hope that you enjoyed the playthrough. I hope that this gave you a sense of how it plays. Thank you for watching and for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you on our next expedition.